Spider-Man PS4 is impossible to beat web-free, but today we're going to see if you can beat some levels in the game without using webs. I know this challenge has been done numerous times before, but I wanted to make a comprehensive video taking a deeper look at some levels where webs aren't necessary, some of which may surprise you. Enjoy the video. Everyone knows his first trick. You can bypass the swinging tutorial by lightly pressing R2, bringing Spider-Man down to the ground. Since I'm not going to show every single altercation, here is what the combat will look like. We're still able to kick, punch, and do combos regularly on the ground on any enemy type. Air launch attacks are allowed, but we can only do 2 hits in the air because whenever we land a 3rd hit, it will always be a web-related attack. In the lobby of Fisk Tower, you can bypass the zip to point prompt by going to either side of the railing and wall run up the sides. And the same can be done inside the tower twice. We can wall crawl up the windows to get up to the next couple of floors. Shield enemies can be beaten without using webs too. All we have to do is jump over to their backside and now you have an opening to attack. Instead of webbing up Kingpin like the game wants you to do, there are 2 ways to engage in fisticuffs with him. The easiest way is to let him grab you, and after you break free, he's open momentarily to attacks. The other way is to hit him as he's about to attack. In my opinion, that's the more difficult one because you have to time it just right. And this technique works in both phases. These are the only 2 web quick time events that you are allowed to miss. In the mission to save Gloria, the brute is always taken out by using webs. But what if I told you I found a way around it? It just involves some ingenuity. The trick is to jump onto the side of a building and do a launch attack on the regular thug. The force from the impact sends out a shockwave that downs nearby enemies, including the brute. It can't be done on the brute himself, but the brute is completely vulnerable to basic attacks for a short period of time. We have to do this a total of 3 times to defeat the brute. After the mandatory stealth tutorial, the second demon can be defeated without webs. We can get off the beam, and then to avoid the takedown prompt, you gotta get right in front of him, and now you have full liberty to inflict bodily harm. The next section is a stealth level, and it's really hard to do without webs. Webs are quiet and make the job quick and easy, while punching and kicking is loud and draws in a lot of attention. And once the other demons get wind of the situation, they go on a manhunt. The first one to get a shot off triggers the game over screen for us and the secretary. What I found to be the proper solution is to take out the demon pacing back and forth. Using the wall makes it easier and faster. The next one becomes easier, because by the time the demon in the entryway notices the aggravated assault, this guy is 1 hit away from a skull fracture. When he comes over to investigate, I'm already on the ceiling, hunting him down. It became a cakewalk from here. I can bait the rest of the demons to my trap by walking in their line of sight and coaxing them to the other room. This is the strategy I use for all of the stealth missions in the game. The next mission of note is the initial research station. The charge jump was the MVP. I just had to align myself just right under the small cloud and fully charge the jump to pass through each one. The hard part was finding the right building to use. The demon brute was the next big test. There's only one way to go about this, and it is to invade his attacks until he tires out. Once he does, we are able to get off a 7-hit combo before he's back to normal. After he tires himself out a second time, 4 more hits land to finish him off. Believe it or not, the helicopter chase can be done without webs. The trick is to be parallel with the helicopter on the opposite side of the building and to be a half or a full step ahead of it. You have to make it to the top of this building with the Osborne billboard before the helicopter does to continue. The strategy we used in the first half carries over to the second, but now there's no room for error. I have to scale this building like my life depends on it to catch up. When the helicopter destroys the hotel sign, there's going to be a checkpoint up ahead. It's auditory, so you probably never paid it any mind.
Now's my chance.
Now I can restart to the last checkpoint, and the game will spawn us on this rooftop for the next part of the mission. And that's where the no web goal ends, because touching the generator isn't enough to trigger the cutscene. It says the word attach, so we have to use web strike to continue the mission. We have another pursuit mission to go over, and 90% of it can be done without webs. The first part of the mission is to chase down the truck while avoiding the missiles. Keeping up with the truck was surprisingly easy, but the closer I was to the truck, the closer I was to a missile to the face. And on top of that, there's gunmen shooting from inside the cargo area. I pulled off an amazing jump, put myself right on the back bumper, but I couldn't physically get on it. Then I found out that the Sable vehicles can make contact. Knocking on death's door, I did one last leap of faith, just to die a second later. When the game restarts, I'm on the roof, so I must have hit a checkpoint. The next part of the mission was a simple task, take out the demons. And when the first one killed over and fell off the roof without web interference, I knew it was possible to do. But it wouldn't be that simple, because because after I knocked out the next demon, a web came out of nowhere and snatched him up. After that, I accidentally did a web takedown, but it turned out to not be an accident, and it was a very common finishing animation, and it was automatic, so I couldn't do anything about it, which means that I had to fully rely on the game's RNG to be in my favor. On this attempt, I was purely air launching them over and over again to minimize the risk. I was holding my breath the entire time, praying that nothing would happen, and thankfully my prayers were answered. The streak of no webs in this mission stops here, because just like in the first part, I can't physically hop on top of these vehicles, so I have to web strike to move on. The last part of the mission took me 11 minutes to do. I chased the truck all throughout Greenwich, getting close but not close enough. Then I had an idea to use this rooftop to launch myself to the truck. Thankfully at the same time, a couple missiles came in and hit it, slowing it down for me to hop on. And the last thing to do was to take care of the demon with the BDSM kink. If you can get close enough to the train, you can technically get on without using webs. And the fight itself wasn't that difficult. I just had to be at a close distance to make it to him before he could finish the charge attack. The only non-web thing that can be done involving Electro is in the first part of the mission where we have to chase him. This mission has only one thing to go over, and I think it'll be a huge surprise to you. It involves the Sable Jetpack enemies. They are, in my opinion, the hardest enemy in the game, and I died more than a handful of times at their hands. Coming into this attempt, I was expecting the same result, but I was somehow able to keep myself alive for more than 45 seconds. There's only one way to attack these guys, and it's to jump up and then press the attack button and Spider-Man will lock onto them. I spammed this move over and over and over again until this happened. Yes, your eyes didn't deceive you. It is possible to defeat a jetpack enemy without using webs, but it's super rare. I retried this level numerous times and it never happened again. The Scorpion acid trip levels can be beaten without webs by doing some parkour. I can traverse the rooftops, but I have to avoid low places because the acid levels rise. And if I take a dip in the acid, it can be for a prolonged period of time. I found a way that avoided both of these problems. I thought it was going to be hard to navigate, but it turned out to be a straight shot to the first ingredient. There were plenty of buildings to use, and the acid levels rising made it easier to find safe places. The beginning of this level was the hardest part to get through. Figuring out which platform to jump to was a little tricky at first, but I managed to get through the greenhouse without using webs. At the beginning of the next level, we meet our new friend Stinger. He didn't really pose much of a threat, he was just in the way for the most part. I took a huge leap of faith here, but I ended up missing the crane and I landed in the acid. I got out within an inch of my life, and I used the battle focus ability to heal myself. Back to 100%, I continued my journey to the checkpoint, and before I knew it, I was one leap away from success. But being the idiot that I am, I looked down and killed all my momentum. I made an effort to make it, but I died mere meters away. This time I decided to take a different route, and I scaled up this crane. Now I was truly one more leap away from success, and I'm glad that Stinger was there to witness it. Just like in the greenhouse, the hardest part of this level was the beginning. You have to jump at the edge of each platform to make it to the next. This level also had wall running and it kind of threw me off, but when I respawned, I got the hang of it. I tried to use the momentum to make it to the next platform, but I jumped way too early. You can cheese the last platform by thinking outside the box. Since there is a wall at the top of the platform, there must be a back to it. And would you look at that, there is. Once I got behind the wall, the camera angle shifted upright, and that made the last jump super easy. And that's another platformer done without webs. 4 down, 1 to go. This is the only level that gave me legit stress, and it was from the amount of stingers. My biggest issues were the constant attacks, and they always seemed to pick the perfect spot to be right in my way. Sometimes I would get lucky and I would phase through their attacks. Other times I wouldn't be so fortunate and I would die either in the acid or from the hit themselves. But that was the risk we had to take since there's no way to go around them. Here I got hit on the button and I had to rush back to the previous building to try again. The stingers will usually despawn after they hit Spider-Man, and that will grant you a clear path to the next building. The same thing happened again a couple roofs over. The first stinger missed its mark, but the second one got me on my way down. I spammed jump like crazy, and if it wasn't for the battle focus, I would have been done for. With my suit power fully charged, I plunged into the acid, and like it was on cue, a stinger rose from the depths, but I was too low for it to do anything to me, so I kept on jumping until I made it to the building. For the last part of the level, I had to swim in the acid to avoid contact with the stingers altogether. I like my chances better down here. To me, it seemed like I was taking less damage from the acid now than I did before, and I always made sure to have a full bar of focus to heal myself. I knew for a fact that I was going to get hit by a stinger or two, so to ease the pain, I used my suit power and healed myself after contact was made. I was 3 jumps away from dry land and 3 jumps away from beating another mission without webs. High blood pressure aside, this was by far my favorite mission of the challenge. And lastly, just like in the first Mr. Negative fight on the train, it is possible to beat him without using webs by dodging his charge attack and then immediately going in to counterattack while he's down. And it can be done in both phases. And that will do it for the video. Even though it is impossible to beat Spider-Man PS4 without webs, you can beat some levels without them. I hope I was able to show you guys some wacky new ways to beat some of these levels. I had fun making this video, and I hope you enjoy watching it. Have fun, be safe, and be smart. See you next time.